Okay, so we're talking about a company making a toy, and it gives us an equation which relates the price of the toy X to the profit that the company is going to make, P. Notice that P is in thousands of pounds. Explain why £15, part A, explain why £15 is not a sensible selling price for the toy. Well, all we have to do is stick 15 into the equation. So P is going to equal 100 minus 6.25 times 15 times 9 minus 9 squared is 100 minus 6.25. 15 minus 9 is 6, 6 squared is 36, and that's going to give you minus 125. So a £15 selling price gives a profit of minus £125,000, or a loss, therefore not sensible. Okay, and the important thing is that the equation gives us a negative profit, which is the same as a loss. Now part B, now it tells us what the profit was. The profit was actually 80,000. So 80, but remember P is in thousands, so it's not 80,000, it's just 80. 80 equals 100 minus 6.25 XL minus 9 squared. Now it tells us that actually the profit was more than 80,000, and it wants us to find the least possible selling price. So I've just put the equation with 80 equals the profit, and that's going to tell us what the least selling price was, because of course if the selling price was more, then when we put a higher value into the equation, it's going to give us a number higher than 80. But we're working out the least possible selling price. So we just assume that the profit was actually equal to 80,000. And we've just got to solve this equation. So we rearrange it. 6.25 XL minus 9 squared equals 100 minus 80, which is 20. So XL minus 9 squared is going to equal 20 over 6.25. So XL minus 9 is actually going to equal plus or minus the square root of 20 over 6.25. Now, be careful. We need to have both the plus or the minus here, because we're going to get XL equals 9 plus or minus 20 over 6.25. Now, because we want the least profit, we're going to get the least profit by doing 9 subtract the square root of 20 over 6.25. If you forget the plus or minus in the step before, then I think you're going to end up with a higher selling price than the least one, because you're going to be adding it on rather than taking it away. So yeah, we've got to have the plus or minus, and we use the negative, and I think when we do that we get £7.22 when we do a minus there. So we want the least, so the one which we use is the minus. Right, for the last part of the question, it says the company wishes to maximise its annual profit, and we've got to find what the maximum possible profit is and the value of x which corresponds to that. Well, if we look at the equation, we're actually subtracting something away from 100. And because it's a square number here, so this is always going to be positive no matter what the value of x. So we're always going to be subtracting something from 100. Well, that means that if x is 9, this bracket's going to be 0, so we're going to be subtracting nothing away from 100, which is going to give us our maximum possible profit. So P max equals, and it's going to be 100, but don't forget it's going to be in thousands, so it's £100,000 as the maximum profit. Yeah, and part 2, the selling price which maximises that profit, well, that's going to be when x is 9, because it's going to cause this bracket to go to 0. So x, the x which maximises the profit is going to be £9.